Sherry discovers a hotel receipt in her husband Jack's pocket while doing laundry. The receipt shows two guests despite him claiming he traveled alone for business. Her heart races as she notices unfamiliar perfume on his shirts. Determined to uncover the truth, she secretly accesses his phone while he sleeps, finding intimate texts with A discussing their upcoming trip. After 15 years of marriage and 3 children, Sherry never imagined becoming the wife who investigates her husband, yet here she stands, hands trembling, staring at undeniable evidence of betrayal. I always thought I had the perfect life. A beautiful suburban house with a white picket fence, 3 amazing children, and a husband who seemed to adore me. My name is Sherry, and at 35, I had what many would consider the American dream. I taught 2nd grade at Pinewood Elementary, loved my job, and balanced it with being a mom to our kids. Lily, 7, Noah, 9, and Ethan, 12. My husband Jack was a successful financial advisor at Wilson & Brooks, a prestigious firm downtown. We met in college, married young at 20, and built our life together brick by brick. For 15 years, our marriage felt solid. Jack was attentive, loving, and we made decisions together. We had date nights every Friday, family game nights on Sundays, and yearly vacations to the beach. People often commented on how in love we still seemed after all these years. I believed them. I believed us. But 6 months ago, things began to change in ways so subtle I almost missed them. Jack started working late more frequently. His occasional business trips became weekly occurrences. When he was home, he seemed distant, constantly checking his phone and taking calls in the garage or backyard. The passwords on his devices changed. His explanations made sense individually. A new client requiring extra attention, company restructuring, security protocols, but together, they formed a pattern I couldn't ignore. One Tuesday afternoon, while balancing the household budget, I noticed unfamiliar charges on our credit card statement. Dinner for 2 at Giovanni's, an upscale Italian restaurant Jack and I had been wanting to try. A purchase at Tiffany's for $400, no jewelry had made its way to my wrist or neck. When questioned, Jack had ready answers. The dinner was with a difficult client who needed special attention. The Tiffany purchase was for his mother's birthday. "You know how Mom loves her silver bracelets," he said with that easy smile that had always melted my doubts. I believed him, or wanted to, until receipts kept appearing. Hotel bar charges when he claimed to be at business dinners. A weekend trip extended by a day with no explanation. Am I going crazy? I asked myself one night while staring at the ceiling, Jack snoring peacefully beside me. I felt like the worst kind of wife, suspicious, untrusting. This wasn't who we were. My best friend Tanya called on a Wednesday morning as I graded papers during my prep period. "Sherry, I saw Jack last night," she said, her voice unusually hesitant. My heart quickened. "Where?" "At Riverside Bistro. He was with a woman, blonde. They looked intimate." "It was probably a client," I said automatically, the words hollow even to my ears. "Maybe," Tanya replied, unconvinced. "I didn't approach them. I thought you should know." That evening, I searched for our tax documents in the family computer. Jack usually handled our finances, but I needed a copy of last year's return for a mortgage refinance application. As I navigated through folders, I clicked on one labeled Backup 2023, expecting financial records. Instead, photos filled the screen. Jack with a blonde woman, arms around each other, kissing, laughing, intimate moments in what looked like hotel rooms. My stomach twisted as I recognized her. Amanda Taylor, wife of Derek Taylor, who worked with Jack. The same Amanda who had sat at our dinner table, complimented my lasagna, and asked about my children's school activities. The same Amanda who had brought expensive wine to our neighborhood Christmas party and pulled me aside to ask my advice about anniversary gifts. I stared at those images until my eyes burned. The betrayal wasn't just from my husband, but from someone who had looked me in the eye while sleeping with him. Someone whose husband I genuinely liked. Quiet, kind Derek, who always asked thoughtful questions about my teaching career and remembered my children's names. The photos were dated, spanning 4 months. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was an ongoing affair happening right under my nose, in my community, involving people who pretended to be our friends. I closed the folder, hands shaking, and placed everything back exactly as I'd found it. Then I went to the bathroom, turned on the shower, and sobbed silently under the spray of water, letting it mask the sound of my world crashing down around me. I became someone I didn't recognize, a wife who monitored her husband's every move. I hated this version of myself, but something inside me had fundamentally changed. Trust, once shattered, reveals how fragile it always was. For 3 weeks, I maintained a perfect facade. I packed lunches, helped with homework, and taught my second graders about fractions and photosynthesis with a smile that never reached my eyes. At night, I lay beside Jack, pretending to sleep while cataloging every lie. "I've got that conference in Chicago next week," he mentioned casually over dinner one evening. "The whole week?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral while Ethan and Noah argued about basketball statistics. "Just Thursday through Sunday. Big client potential. Derek's handling the preliminary meetings." Derek. Another lie. According to the email I'd found, Derek was scheduled for meetings in Boston that week. I created a detailed log of Jack's movements. I knew it was unhealthy, but something drove me forward, not just anger or heartbreak, but a determination to uncover the full truth. How long had this been happening? What else was he hiding? What was their plan? Late one night, I accessed Jack's email through an auto login on our shared iPad. A confirmation for 2 airline tickets to Nashville appeared in his inbox. The passenger names made my blood run cold. Jack Wilson and Amanda Taylor. The dates matched his supposed Chicago conference. I needed help. My sister Lauren had always been my rock. Over coffee at her kitchen table, safely across town from any prying eyes, I finally broke down. "Jack's having an affair with Amanda Taylor," I whispered, still finding the words surreal. Lauren's expression shifted from shock to fierce protectiveness. "That lying bastard. What are you going to do?" "I need to know everything before I confront him. I need irrefutable evidence." "You already have the photos," Lauren pointed out. "I need to understand the full scope. How serious this is. If they're planning something beyond the affair itself." Lauren nodded slowly. "The kids can stay with me this weekend. Tell Jack you're visiting Mom." My plan took shape with military precision. I rented a nondescript gray sedan using cash. I purchased a high-quality camera with zoom lens and extra memory cards. I downloaded tracking apps and created a new email account untraceable to me. Thursday morning, I kissed my children goodbye, hugged Lauren, and drove to the airport long before Jack would arrive. Positioned near the departure screens with a newspaper and sunglasses, I watched him roll his suitcase toward the security line. 20 minutes later, Amanda appeared, wearing designer sunglasses and carrying a small leather weekend bag. Jack greeted her with a casual hug, appropriate for colleagues to anyone watching, but I caught the lingering touch on her lower back. I boarded the same flight, sitting several rows behind them, hidden behind a baseball cap and book. In Nashville, I followed their rideshare to the Holston House Hotel, noting Jack used his personal credit card, not his company one. From the lobby's corner, I watched them check in as I pretended to work on my laptop. The intimacy between them was unmistakable now, away from familiar eyes. His hand on her waist, her leaning into him, speaking closely into his ear. Hours later, as evening approached, I spotted Amanda alone in the hotel bar, phone pressed to her ear. I moved to a nearby table, ordering a sparkling water as I discreetly positioned my phone to record. "Everything's fine, Derek," Amanda was saying, her voice practiced and smooth. "Mom's doing better today. The doctors are running more tests tomorrow. Yes, I know it was sudden, but she didn't want to worry anyone. Of course you didn't need to come. You have the Wilson account presentation. I'll probably stay through Sunday just to make sure she's settled. Love you too. She ended the call, immediately texting someone with a smile playing on her lips. Moments later, Jack appeared, sliding into the seat beside her, kissing her neck in a way he hadn't kissed mine in months. Did he buy it? Jack asked. Amanda smiled, tracing her finger along his jaw. Completely. He's so trusting. It almost makes this too easy. Almost a year now, and he hasn't suspected a thing. That's because he's focused on work instead of paying attention to what's right in front of him, Jack replied. His loss. Are you going to tell her soon? Amanda asked, her voice dropping. We can't keep doing this forever. Nashville, Chicago, Boston. I'm running out of sick relatives to visit. Jack sighed, taking her hand. After the Wilson merger closes. The timing isn't right yet. There's too much at stake. Their conversation continued as I recorded every damning word, my heart pounding so loudly I feared they might hear it across the room. This wasn't just an affair. It was a calculated deception approaching the 1-year mark. And from their conversation, they were making plans that would upend more than just 2 marriages. I followed them throughout the weekend, documenting their romantic dinners, walks along the river, and returns to their hotel room. Each photo, each recording, was another nail in the coffin of my marriage. But more than evidence for a potential divorce, I was gathering information to understand what I was truly facing. Sunday afternoon, I boarded my flight home 2 hours before theirs, arriving in time to pick up my children, thank Lauren, and return to our house as if I'd never left. When Jack returned that evening, I greeted him with a practiced smile. How was Chicago? I asked, knowing exactly where he'd been and who he'd been with. Productive, he replied, kissing my cheek distractedly. Exhausting. These conferences are more draining every year. I nodded, listening to him fabricate meetings and networking events that had never occurred. With each lie, my resolve strengthened. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was becoming something else entirely, a woman with a plan. Jack grew increasingly bold with his lies, elaborating them with unnecessary details as if to convince himself as much as me. Over dinner the next evening, he invented an entire conversation with a keynote speaker who hadn't even been in the same state as him. The presentation on market volatility was fascinating, he said, cutting into his steak. The speaker used this analogy about surfers and waves that really made complex concepts accessible. I nodded, asking appropriate questions while my mind calculated my next moves. Part of me wanted to throw the Nashville photos across the table, to watch his face as his careful fiction collapsed. But another part, a colder, more strategic part, knew that immediate confrontation wouldn't give me what I needed. Sounds interesting, I replied. How's Derek doing with the Boston meetings? Jack didn't even flinch at the contradiction. Great. He's always solid with the Morgan portfolio. Another lie. The pieces weren't just about the affair anymore. Something bigger was happening, and I needed to understand the full picture. While Jack played golf with clients on Saturday, I researched Derek Taylor more thoroughly. Unlike Jack, Derek's online presence was minimal. No social media accounts beyond a professional LinkedIn profile. But local newspaper archives revealed a man dedicated to community service. He'd organized fundraisers for the Children's Hospital. He'd supported Amanda through 3 career changes in 5 years, from marketing executive to interior designer to her current role in client relations at Jack's firm. According to a feature in the business section from last year, Derek had postponed his own career advancement to relocate when Amanda received a job offer she called too good to pass up. The article included a photo of them at a charity gala, Derek looking at Amanda with undisguised adoration while she smiled at the camera. My heart ached for this man who had no idea his life was built on quicksand. The decision crystallized. I would approach Derek first. Not to hurt him, but because he deserved to know the truth before his entire world imploded without warning. I created a portfolio of evidence: photos, recordings, text message screenshots, hotel receipts, everything organized chronologically, showing the progression of the affair. I made copies, storing one set in a secure cloud account and another in a safety deposit box at a bank where we didn't do business. As I finalized my preparations, a new concern emerged. While searching for additional evidence in Jack's home office, I discovered emails between Jack and a bank I didn't recognize. He had opened a private account 6 months ago, around when the affair began, and had been transferring small amounts from our joint savings. Individually, the transfers weren't suspicious, $1,000 here, $1,500 there, but together they totaled nearly $70,000. Our children's college funds, our retirement planning, our emergency savings, all being systematically drained. This wasn't just about sex or emotion. This was about money, about planning an exit. My hands shook as I printed the account statements, adding them to my evidence file. The betrayal had just reached a new level. That night, I lay awake beside Jack, studying his sleeping profile in the darkness. This man who had promised to love and protect me was dismantling our family's security piece by piece. The realization transformed something inside me. Sadness gave way to clarity. Betrayal hardened into determination. I thought about my children, peacefully sleeping down the hall, unaware that their father was preparing to abandon the life we'd built. I thought about our 15 years together, the sacrifices I'd made for his career, the support I'd given through every challenge. I thought about Amanda, constructing elaborate lies to Derek while plotting with my husband. By morning, my path was clear. This wasn't just about exposing an affair anymore. This was about protecting my children, my home, and my future. The confrontation I'd been dreading now felt necessary, even overdue. I contacted a divorce attorney recommended by Lauren, securing an emergency consultation for that afternoon. I moved half our remaining joint funds into a separate account in my name only, not hiding it as Jack had done, but creating a financial safety net. I gathered essential documents, birth certificates, property deeds, insurance policies, and stored copies with Lauren. With my practical preparations complete, I turned to the emotional task ahead, confronting Derek Taylor with evidence of his wife's betrayal. I wouldn't do it out of vengeance, but out of respect. He needed to know before Jack and Amanda could implement whatever plan they were constructing. He needed the same chance to protect himself that I was fighting for. I scheduled a meeting with my principal, requesting 3 personal days. I arranged for Lauren to pick up the kids from school and activities, explaining I had an urgent family situation. Then I drove to Derek's office, a sleek building downtown where he worked as senior account manager for a commercial real estate firm. Sitting in the parking lot, portfolio clutched in my hands, I rehearsed what I would say. There was no gentle way to destroy someone's world, no kind method to deliver such news. But there was respect, compassion, and truth. Derek deserved all 3. With a deep breath, I stepped out of my car and walked toward the building, each step bringing me closer to a confrontation that would forever alter 4 intertwined lives. The reception area of Taylor Commercial Properties was modern and minimalist, all glass, steel, and neutral tones. A young woman with a sleek ponytail looked up from her computer as I approached. "Welcome to TCP. How may I help you?" Her smile was professional but warm. "I'd like to see Derek Taylor, please. It's a personal matter." I kept my voice steady despite the portfolio feeling impossibly heavy in my hands. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's urgent. Could you please tell him Sherry Wilson is here?" The name felt strange in my mouth, suddenly representing something broken. 5 minutes of sitting in a minimalist chair, studying my trembling hands, and Derek appeared in the reception area. Tall, with sandy hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, he looked exactly like the dependable, thoughtful man I remembered from company functions. "Sherry?" Confusion crossed his face, followed by concern. "Is everything okay? Is Jack all right?" The genuine worry in his voice made what I was about to do even harder. "Jack's fine," I assured him. "I need to speak with you privately. It's important." Derek led me to his office, a corner space with views of the city and framed architectural prints on the walls. Photos of him and Amanda stood on his desk, hiking in national parks, dressed up for formal events, laughing on a beach. Happy moments captured in time, now poisoned by what I knew. "Please, sit down. Can I get you water or coffee?" he offered, gesturing to a small seating area. Water would be fine. My throat felt impossibly dry. When he returned with 2 glasses, I took a small sip, gathering courage. "Derek, this is extremely difficult," I began, "but I discovered something you need to know. There's no easy way to say this, so I'll be direct. Jack and Amanda are having an affair." His expression froze, glass halfway to his lips. For several seconds, he didn't move or speak. "That's not possible," he finally said, his voice flat. "There must be some mistake." Wordlessly, I opened the portfolio and handed him the first photograph. Jack and Amanda, kissing in the lobby of the Nashville hotel, date and timestamp visible in the corner. Derek stared at it, then looked up at me with wounded eyes. "You followed them?" "After finding earlier evidence, yes. I needed to be certain." I explained about discovering the photos on our computer, the inconsistencies in Jack's stories, the trip to Nashville. "Last weekend?" Amanda said she was visiting her mother in Florida. "A medical emergency." His voice cracked slightly. "I'm so sorry, Derek." The words felt wholly inadequate. Silently, methodically, he examined each piece of evidence. The hotel receipts, the text message screenshots, the bank statements showing Jack's secret account. 9 months, he whispered, looking at the earliest dated photo. 9 months they've been. He couldn't finish the sentence. "At least that long," I confirmed gently. "Maybe longer." Derek set the portfolio aside, removing his glasses to rub his eyes. I knew something was different. Amanda's been distant, working late, traveling more, but I never imagined. He gestured helplessly at the evidence. "I trusted her completely." "I understand. I trusted Jack the same way." Derek stood abruptly, pacing his office. "All those nights I thought she was working. All those weekends with supposed girlfriends or family emergencies. I know it's overwhelming." He turned to me, his expression shifting from shock to dawning realization. "The Wilson merger. Amanda's been pushing me to invest heavily in a new development project. Said it would be transformative for our portfolio. It's tied to Wilson and Brooks somehow." My confusion must have shown on my face. "Amanda's been encouraging me to liquidate some of our long-term investments to free up capital. Said there was an opportunity through connections at her workplace. I've been researching the proposal, but something felt off about the projections." A cold certainty settled in my stomach. Jack's been moving money from our accounts. Not enormous amounts at once, but consistently. Derek returned to his desk, typing rapidly on his computer. "The development project is managed by a holding company called A&J Ventures, established 8 months ago. A and J, Amanda and Jack. They're not just having an affair," Derek said, voice hollow. "They're planning something bigger, using both our money to fund it." We spent the next hour piecing together what we could from Derek's records and my evidence. Amanda had been systematically encouraging Derek to convert secure investments into liquid assets. Meanwhile, Jack had been siphoning our family funds. The emerging picture was disturbing. They weren't just betraying us emotionally, they were setting up a financial exit strategy that would leave both of us vulnerable. "What are you going to do?" Derek asked, his initial shock hardening into something more determined. "I've consulted an attorney. Started protecting what assets I can. I hesitated, but I think we need to confront them together. Present a united front." Derek nodded slowly. "When?" "They believe we're both in the dark. We can use that." I outlined my thoughts, waiting until we had secured our respective financial positions, then confronting them simultaneously before they could coordinate their stories. "They're planning something soon," Derek said. "Amanda's been pressing me to finalize these investment changes by next week. Then we don't have much time." As our planning continued, Derek revealed more about his relationship with Amanda. How she'd grown increasingly critical of his career choices. How she'd pushed him to work longer hours, while simultaneously complaining about his absence. How she'd suggested he decline a promotion that would have required more of her support and less of her freedom. "I thought she was unhappy with her own career path," he said, pain evident in his voice. "I've been trying to help her find fulfillment, encouraging her interests, supporting every new direction. All while she was—" He gestured to the photos. "You couldn't have known," I said gently. "The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them." Derek looked at me with newfound resolve. "Thank you for coming to me, Sherry. It took tremendous courage." As I prepared to leave, Derek stopped me with a gentle hand on my arm. "Jack doesn't deserve you," he said quietly. "Neither of us deserved this." I nodded, unexpected tears forming. It was the first genuine moment of connection I'd felt in months, being truly seen by someone who understood exactly what I was experiencing. We exchanged numbers, promising to finalize our confrontation plans within 48 hours. As I walked to my car, a strange sense of peace settled over me. The worst had happened, yet I was still standing, still fighting, and now I wasn't fighting alone. Derek and I developed our plan over the next 2 days, communicating through a secure messaging app I'd downloaded specifically for this purpose. We agreed timing was critical. We needed to act before Jack and Amanda could execute whatever financial scheme they were planning, but not before we'd secured our own positions. "My attorney advised freezing the joint investment accounts," Derek messaged. "Amanda will be notified, but I've cited a security concern which buys us 48 hours. "Smart. I've secured our savings and children's college funds," I replied. "Jack hasn't noticed yet." We selected Friday evening for the confrontation. Through careful monitoring of their messages, I discovered Jack and Amanda planned to meet at our house while I was supposedly taking the children to my parents for the weekend, another convenient business trip lie on Jack's part. The emotional preparation proved far more challenging than the logistical. Each night, I lay awake rehearsing what I would say, how I would remain calm when facing the two people who had conspired to destroy my family. During the day, I moved through my routines mechanically, teaching my students, caring for my children, maintaining a facade of normalcy while my internal world was in chaos. I scheduled an emergency session with a therapist Lauren had recommended. "I'm not angry enough," I confessed during our appointment. "Shouldn't I be furious? Throwing things? Screaming?" Dr. Winters studied me thoughtfully. "Anger isn't the only valid response to betrayal. Sometimes clarity and determination are more protective. I feel like I'm watching everything from outside myself. That's a common trauma response. You're doing what you need to survive this. The emotions will come when it's safe to feel them." Her validation helped. I wasn't broken or cold, I was surviving. For the children, I crafted a careful explanation about a special weekend with grandparents, promising movies, baking, and cousin time. My parents believed I needed space to plan Jack's birthday surprise. Only Lauren knew the truth, agreeing to be on standby if I needed emergency emotional support. The day before our planned confrontation, Derek and I met at a coffee shop halfway between our offices to finalize details. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, his eyes showing the same strange combination of determination and grief I felt in myself. "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied. "You?" "I still wake up every morning thinking it was all a bad dream." He traced the rim of his coffee cup. "Then I remember." "I know. Me too." We confirmed the timeline once more. I would drop the children with my parents at 4, then return home to prepare for book club. Derek would arrive at 6, parking around the corner. Jack had told me he would be working late, but Amanda's assistant had confirmed she had blocked off her calendar from 5:30 onward. Based on previous patterns, they would likely arrive at my house around 6:30, believing it empty for the weekend. "What if they don't come together?" Derek asked. "They will," I said with certainty. "It's their pattern when they think they have privacy. Besides, they have planning to do." As we prepared to leave, Derek hesitated. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I want to thank you again for coming to me. I would have been blindsided completely." I nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. There was small comfort in facing this disaster with preparation rather than being ambushed by it. That evening, while packing the children's weekend bags, I found myself moving in slow motion, carefully folding Lily's favorite pajamas, making sure Noah had his special pillow, checking that Ethan's gaming device was charged. These normal, motherly actions anchored me in a reality that still made sense. Jack arrived home late, loosening his tie as he walked through the door. "The Jenkins account again?" I asked, maintaining our normal rhythm. "They're being difficult about the terms," he sighed, kissing my cheek automatically. "I'll probably need to go in tomorrow, too. Sorry about that." "It's fine. The kids and I will be at my parents', remember? Mom's birthday weekend." Jack nodded, looking relieved at the reminder. "Right. Tell her happy birthday from me." "Of course." I handed him a glass of the bourbon he preferred, playing my role perfectly. "Dinner's in the oven. I made that chicken you like." He looked momentarily surprised by the thoughtfulness, perhaps even guilty. "Thanks. That's really nice." For a flickering second, I saw the man I had married, appreciative, present, connected. Then he checked his phone, his expression shifting subtly, and the illusion vanished. The Jack I loved had been gone far longer than I'd realized. The next morning brought unexpected complications. While finishing the children's breakfast, I needed to find Noah's inhaler for the weekend. Checking Amanda's purse in Jack's home office, a designer tote she'd accidentally left behind after a dinner party weeks ago and had yet to retrieve, I discovered something that changed everything. A pregnancy test. Positive. My hands shook as I carefully replaced it exactly as I'd found it. A baby. The implications spiraled through my mind as I mechanically poured cereal and packed lunches. Was Jack the father? Were they planning to start a new family together? Had they been trying to conceive while maintaining our marriages as convenient covers? I texted Derek immediately. "New development. We'll explain in person. Still on for tonight." His reply came quickly. "Nothing changes the plan. See you at 6. The drive to my parents' house felt surreal. My children chattered happily in the back seat about weekend plans, while my mind raced with questions about their future. Would they have a half-sibling they never met? Would Jack be a devoted father to another woman's child while gradually distancing himself from Ethan, Noah, and Lily? After settling the children with my parents and making excuses about needing to prepare for an important presentation, I drove home, stopping only to pick up the final documentation from my attorney, papers securing my legal position, regardless of what happened next. Derek's car was already parked a block away when I arrived. I flashed my lights once as I passed, our agreed signal. Pulling into my driveway, I took several deep breaths before entering the house that no longer felt like the safe haven it once was. At precisely 6 o'clock, Derek knocked on my back door as planned. His face was pale but composed. "There's a pregnancy test in Amanda's purse," I said without preamble, positive. Derek's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. "When?" "I don't know. I found it this morning. It was hidden in a side pocket." He nodded once, processing this new information. Could change their timeline. "Or explain it," I added softly. We positioned ourselves in the living room, evidence arranged on the coffee table, water and tissues, ready for what would undoubtedly be an emotional confrontation. The pregnancy test I'd discovered added urgency to our plan, raising stakes neither of us had anticipated. At 6:25, headlights swept across the front window. Car doors slammed. Laughter. Amanda's musical. Jack's deeper response. Keys in the lock. The sound of my husband bringing another woman into our home, thinking I was miles away, unaware that in moments, both their carefully constructed worlds would collapse. The front door opened, filling the silent house with the sound of intimate laughter. Jack's voice carried from the entryway. Wine first, or straight upstairs? The suggestive tone in his voice was one I hadn't heard in years. Definitely wine, Amanda replied. We've got celebrating to do. They rounded the corner into the living room, Amanda's hand tucked into Jack's back pocket, his arm around her waist. For 3 heartbeats, they didn't register our presence. Then Amanda froze mid. Step, Jack colliding slightly with her sudden stop. Sherry? Jack's face drained of color. What are you? I thought. Clearly, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Amanda recovered first, smoothly disentangling herself from Jack. This isn't what it looks like. Derek's quiet voice came from beside me. Actually, Amanda, I think it's exactly what it looks like. Her head whipped toward him, eyes widening in genuine shock. Derek, what are you doing here? Waiting for you. Both of you. He gestured to the evidence spread across the coffee table. Please, sit down. We have a lot to discuss. Jack's confusion transformed into anger. What is this? Some kind of ambush? Interesting choice of words from the man having an affair in his own home, I replied evenly. Reluctantly, Jack and Amanda sat on the sofa opposite us, maintaining careful distance between themselves now, a useless pretense given what we'd witnessed. How long have you known? Jack asked, his eyes fixed on the folders containing our evidence. Long enough, I said. Nashville was particularly enlightening. Amanda's head snapped toward me. You followed us to Nashville? I nodded. Every dinner, every walk along the river, every return to your hotel room. My mother really was sick, she insisted, turning to Derek. I just happened to run into Jack at the hotel. Derek wordlessly opened the folder nearest him, sliding across a photograph of them kissing in the hotel lobby, another of them holding hands at dinner. For how many nights? He asked quietly. Amanda's fabricated explanation died on her lips. She stared at the photos, then at her husband, calculation visible behind her eyes. Jack attempted a different approach. Look, this is awkward and unfortunate, but it doesn't need to become ugly. Adults sometimes grow apart. Feelings develop. It happens. Is that what you call this? I asked, pushing forward the bank statements showing his systematic withdrawal of our family funds. Growing apart? Or planning an exit? His face hardened. You've been spying on me. I've been protecting myself and our children from what increasingly looks like fraud. Derek produced his own documentation. A&J Ventures, incorporated 8 months ago. Care to explain? Jack and Amanda exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. It's a legitimate investment opportunity, Amanda began. That neither of you disclosed to your spouses while soliciting funds for it? Derek countered. The confrontation escalated as we methodically presented our evidence. Each photograph, bank statement, and recorded conversation stripped away another layer of their deception. Their initial denials gave way to reluctant admissions, then to desperate justifications. We didn't plan for this to happen, Jack insisted. It just evolved. Into coordinated business trips? Secret bank accounts? A joint venture using our money? My voice remained measured despite the churning in my stomach. You wouldn't understand, Amanda said, her composure cracking slightly. We connected on a level neither of you could provide. This is about more than just an affair. Clearly, Derek replied, his calm never wavering. It's about betrayal on multiple levels. As their defenses weakened, the dynamics between Jack and Amanda shifted subtly. When confronted with the financial evidence, They began contradicting each other's versions of events. The account was a surprise for Sherry, Jack claimed. An anniversary gift. That's not what you told me, Amanda interjected before catching herself. Their unified front deteriorated further when Derek produced documentation of Amanda's attempt to redirect his investment portfolio. You said it was your idea, Jack accused, turning to her. That Derek was fully on board. I was working on it, she snapped back. You were supposed to give me time. The tension between them grew palpable as they realized their carefully constructed plans were unraveling. Each revelation exposed not just their betrayal of us, but increasingly, their manipulation of each other. The pregnancy test, I said finally, when a momentary silence fell. When were you planning to mention that? Amanda's hand instinctively went to her stomach, her eyes widening. Jack's head snapped toward her in genuine surprise. You're pregnant? He asked, voice strained. Her hesitation told us everything. I was going to tell you tonight. Is it mine? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Amanda's eyes darted between the three of us. Of course it's yours. But something in Jack's expression suggested doubt. A doubt Derek caught immediately. How can you be certain? Derek asked his wife, voice dangerously quiet. The uncomfortable silence that followed was broken by the chime of my phone. A text message from my financial advisor that made my blood run cold. Interesting timing, I said, holding up my phone for all to see. Jack attempted to empty our remaining joint accounts this morning. Fortunately, I'd already placed a security hold requiring dual authorization. Jack's face flushed with anger. You had no right. No right? My control finally slipped. To protect my children's future? You've been stealing from them for months. It wasn't stealing. I earned that money. We earned it, I corrected. For our family. For the life we built together, which you were dismantling piece by piece while lying to my face. The confrontation reached its climax as all pretenses fell away. Amanda admitted she'd been playing both men, encouraging Jack to liquidate our assets while pushing Derek to invest in their venture. Jack revealed he'd known about her manipulation, but believed he was the exception, not another target. You told me Derek was controlling, Jack accused, that he monitored your spending and restricted your freedom. Derek's laugh was hollow. I added her as an authorized user on every account. She redecorated our entire house last year without consulting me once. As their mutual deceptions unraveled, Amanda turned on Jack. You promised we'd start over together. A clean break. After the merger, he countered. That was always the plan, which kept conveniently changing. First Christmas, then spring, then summer. Meanwhile, I'm the one taking all the risks. Risks? Jack scoffed. I'm the one who stood to lose everything in a divorce. And I'm the one pregnant, she shouted, tears finally breaking through her composed facade. The revelation of just how calculated their affair had been, not a passionate mistake, but a long-term deception with financial motivations, hit both Derek and me simultaneously. This wasn't just about betrayal of vows. This was something colder, more deliberate. I want you out of our house tonight, I told Jack, my decision crystallizing. You can arrange for your things tomorrow when the children aren't home. You can't just throw me out, he protested. This is my house too. Actually, Derek interjected, given the evidence of financial impropriety, neither of you is in a strong position legally. He turned to Amanda. I've already changed the locks. The shock on their faces would have been satisfying under different circumstances. Instead, it simply confirmed what Derek and I had already realized. They never expected to be caught. They never imagined us being one step ahead. Jack made one last desperate attempt. Sherry, 15 years of marriage, 3 children. You're gonna throw that away? I'm not the one who threw it away, I replied quietly. You did that when you decided our life together wasn't enough. When you chose to lie, to steal, to betray everything we built. As the confrontation wound down, Jack and Amanda left separately, their united front completely shattered. Neither wanted to face the consequences of their actions. Both tried to shift blame onto the other. In their absence, Derek and I sat in stunned silence, the weight of all we'd learned settling around us. The entire foundation of our lives had been revealed as fragile, built on trust that had been systematically abused. "What happens now?" Derek asked finally. "We rebuild," I answered, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. On more solid ground this time. The weeks following the confrontation unfolded in a blur of practical necessities and emotional reckonings. Jack moved into a downtown apartment, his initial anger giving way to shame as the full consequences of his actions became clear. Our children, confused and hurt by their father's sudden absence, asked questions I answered as honestly as age, appropriate explanations allowed. "Dad made some grown-up mistakes," I explained during our first family conversation. "He's going to live somewhere else for now, but he still loves you very much." Ethan, at 12, understood more than his siblings. "Is it because of that lady from his office? The one who came to our barbecue?" "Children see more than we realize." "Partly," I admitted. "But grown-up relationships are complicated. The important thing is that none of this is your fault." The divorce proceedings began with unexpected efficiency. Jack, facing potential financial fraud charges and the collapse of his carefully constructed exit plan, agreed to generous terms. The money he'd secretly transferred was returned. The house remained mine. The custody arrangement prioritized the children's stability. Amanda's pregnancy complicated her situation with Derek. DNA testing eventually confirmed what both men had come to suspect. The baby wasn't Jack's. Her web of deceptions had extended further than any of us imagined. Through it all, Derek and I maintained contact, finding unexpected strength in sharing this strange journey with someone who truly understood. Our weekly coffee meetings became a sanctuary where we could process our experiences without judgment or explanation. "Amanda's moving to Seattle," he mentioned during one such meeting, 3 months after the confrontation. "Her sister lives there. The divorce will be finalized next month." "How are you feeling about that?" I asked. He considered the question carefully. "Relieved, mostly. There's still moments of anger, of course, but increasingly, I feel like I've dodged something worse than heartbreak." I understood exactly what he meant. The pain of betrayal was excruciating, but discovering the manipulation before they'd completed their plan had saved both of us from even greater devastation. My own healing came in unexpected forms. A promotion to lead teacher at Pinewood provided welcome professional validation. Weekly therapy sessions helped me process the grief of losing the marriage I thought I had. Most surprisingly, I discovered reserves of strength I never knew existed. 6 months after that fateful confrontation, my life had found a new rhythm. The children spent alternating weekends with Jack, who, to his credit, had embraced therapy and seemed genuinely committed to rebuilding his relationship with them. Our interactions remained strictly focused on co-parenting, the trust between us, irreparably broken, but replaced by a workable civility. The A&J Ventures project collapsed completely. Without access to our money and with their reputations damaged by the exposed deception, Jack and Amanda watched their grand plans disintegrate. The professional consequences were significant for both of them. Amanda lost her position entirely, while Jack received a formal reprimand and demotion. "Sometimes I wonder if they really loved each other at all," I mused to Derek during a walk in the park. Our coffee meetings had evolved into occasional weekend outings, our friendship deepening through shared recovery. Or, if it was just about the excitement, the money. "I think they loved the idea of each other," Derek replied. "The fantasy version that didn't come with real responsibilities or compromises. Unlike actual marriage," I said with a rueful smile. "Exactly unlike that." He hesitated before adding, "Amanda called yesterday. Wanted to talk about reconciliation." I stopped walking. "Are you considering it?" "Not for a second." His certainty was absolute. Some betrayals can't be undone. Some trust can't be rebuilt. I nodded, understanding completely. There was freedom in accepting that some endings are necessary, even when painful. As fall turned to winter, my home filled with new traditions and unexpected joy. The children and I created Friday night movie marathons. I joined a community theater group, rediscovering a passion for acting I'd abandoned after college. Lauren and her family became regular Sunday dinner guests, filling our table with laughter and support. Jack's transformation continued, his initial hostility giving way to genuine remorse. During a parent-teacher conference we attended together, he pulled me aside afterward. "I know it doesn't change anything," he said quietly, "but I'm truly sorry, Sherry, for all of it." "You're right," I replied, "neither cruel nor kind. It doesn't change anything, but I appreciate hearing it." Derek's friendship became an unexpected gift through this period. Our shared experience created a unique understanding between us, not romantic, but deeply compassionate. We helped each other navigate holidays, legal proceedings, and the well-meaning but often painful questions from friends and colleagues. People keep asking when I'm going to start dating again. I told him during a phone call one evening, after putting the children to bed, as if finding another relationship would somehow fix everything. "I get the same questions," he commiserated. "My mother has started casually mentioning her friend's single daughter at least once per conversation. Do they not understand we need time to trust again? To figure out who we are now?" "Most people are uncomfortable with unresolved stories," Derek observed. "They want the happy ending immediately, not the messy middle part." 1 year after the confrontation, I stood in my kitchen on a bright spring morning, watching my children playing in the backyard through the window. Ethan was teaching Noah to throw a football, while Lily directed her brothers with the bossy confidence of a 7-year-old. Their laughter floated through the open window, a sound that had become more frequent as our new normal settled into place. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. "1 year today, we survived." I smiled, typing back. "More than survived, thrived." The journey from betrayal to healing hadn't been linear or simple. There had been nights of aching loneliness, mornings of paralyzing uncertainty, and moments when the weight of single parenthood felt overwhelming. But through it all, I'd discovered something invaluable: my own resilience. The woman who had trembled while holding a hotel receipt a year ago had transformed into someone stronger, wiser, and more authentic. I no longer defined myself primarily as Jack's wife or even as a betrayed spouse. I was Sherry, teacher, mother, friend, survivor, whole and complete in myself. That evening, as I tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at me with serious eyes. "Mommy, are you happy now?" The question caught me off guard with its perception. "Yes, sweetheart, I am happy. Different than before, but happy. Are you?" She nodded solemnly. "You smile more now, and you laugh louder." From the wisdom of a child, the most meaningful measure of healing. Later, I sat on my porch swing, watching the stars emerge in the evening sky. The pain hadn't disappeared completely. Perhaps it never would. But it had transformed into something manageable, even valuable. Each betrayal had revealed important truths. About my marriage, about Jack, about myself. Each discovery, though painful, had ultimately set me free. The greatest lesson wasn't about betrayal at all, but about trust, not just in others, but in myself, in my ability to face difficult truths, to protect what mattered most, to rebuild from ashes. The woman who had feared becoming the wife who investigates her husband had become something far more powerful. The woman who saved herself. Thank you for joining me on this journey from betrayal to healing. If you've ever faced betrayal or deception, I hope my story reminds you that pain, while inevitable, doesn't have to define you. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have confronted them differently? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, Please like and subscribe to our channel for more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need to hear that healing is possible, even after the deepest betrayals. Wishing you strength and peace on your own journey.